How did you feel when you were contemplating the IVF journey and when you started to have struggles conceiving without IVF?
No, it's the thing, because we don't talk about our bodies and women's health, and there's just not a lot of conversation about marriage or pregnancy or any of this. Our parents don't talk about it. Their parents before them don't talk about it, right? So you imagine your life as you're checking boxes. I'm waiting. I've delayed having kids. I found the love of my life, and now I'm going to get pregnant. And no one tells you that there is really a biological clock.
All right. So Michelle Obama was recently on the Diary of a CEO podcast, very popular podcast. One of my favorite, actually. I've seen a lot of guests that I appreciate on this podcast. They're doing some amazing things over here on this platform. But I'm going to address a couple of points that Michelle Obama made that to me, they sounded real disingenuous. And to frame this correctly, I'm not somebody who gets very triggered by people who I may disagree with. I know a lot of people have opposing views when it comes to politics. Like I saw a bunch of comments underneath this of people being like unsubscribed and blah, blah, blah. Like I'm able to listen to people, and if I disagree with you, cool. But I've been honest and seen areas that I believe the Obamas are successful. One of those is their marriage, right? And we live in a generation where people write you off on everything else, including the areas of your life where you can recognize and say, okay, they can talk about marriage, but there's something about the way she's addressing some of these issues. One of them surprisingly admitting that women are on a biological clock. And she says, we don't talk about this. The first thing I thought is that that's all we talk about right now. That's all everybody's talking about right now. She does admit here that she does admit that women are on a biological clock, which is something a lot of women will not admit. Thus, men preferring younger women if they want to start families, right? Fertility is a huge thing, a huge conversation right now. Then she goes on to talk about things like people quitting marriages. And even that in itself, the way she approached it was a bit half-truth. And what I mean by that is she was protecting the large percentage of the gender who quits on marriage, which is largely women at 70%. Anyways, let's keep listening.
Like, that's not false. We have partner in podcasts, Dr. Sharon Malone, who wrote a book, Grown Woman Talk, where she's sort of ripping the curtain off of women's health questions. And in a conversation with her, she reminded us that women, we are born with a finite set of eggs, and we don't get any more. Right. And every month we're losing them. And so there is a period of time, usually, and it's different for everyone, usually in your 30s, where you go from fertile to not. And it's like falling off of a cliff. And I'm like, why didn't anybody tell me this?
I know.
Why weren't people talking about this? So by the time we started really trying, which worked perfectly for our careers and maturing and having everything set, right? Because that's what we're trying to get everything set. Unlike our parents who, had us, we lived in a little bitty apartment, one income. Our generation, we're worrying about, I want everything set. I guarantee you have things way more set than any of our parents had before they started having kids.
Right.
But we're waiting for everything to be perfect. No friction. We don't want any friction, right? And while we're waiting for our lives to be perfect, that biological clock is ticking. So you start trying and it's not working. That's when you go to the doctor and they tell you, oh, you're running out of eggs. This is normal. I mean, you're going to have trouble getting pregnant. And so try a little bit. And then now it's time for IVF.
If you can afford it.
If you can afford it, which it wasn't covered by insurance at the time. So
I promise you guys, I did not plan that. I did not. I'm just a genius.
So, it's just a shock to the system. And as people who like learning and like knowledge, you really sort of feel gypped.
Yeah.
That why is this such a secret? Which is why I talk about it openly, and I talk about miscarriages, because the other thing I learned is, like, most pregnancies, a good percentage of them end in miscarriage, that people have been having miscarriages for years, but not talking about it. So when it happens to you, a box checker, somebody that thought life was going to be so, and you did all the right things, to have things not work out and to know that it was going to be that way and nobody told you so that you could be prepared for it. It was a blow. And then as a woman, you're walking around owning the blow as if it's your fault.
Part of the pushback when men address these type of topics is, hey, why are you in women's business? Why are you participating in this conversation as a man? Let women have this conversation. And you really are not thinking about what you're actually saying there. You're telling men who choose women who they want to be married to. Remember, here we're talking about individuals who come together and value marriage. That's what they want. You're telling these men to not have conversations about fertility. And a lot of people think that, oh, men simply are just attracted to women who are younger. And please don't jump to extremes here. Because immediately, to make yourself feel better, you're going to think, oh, he's talking about 18 and 19-year-olds. No. What do we see? We see consistently career women who are in their late 30s, early 40s, other women advising their peers to marry a lot later into life. And when they finally get everything figured out, right, men aren't picking them to be wives. And it's not just because you're probably so rooted in your masculine and independence and you don't know how to get along with the type of man that you are attracted to. There are also other huge biological markers, like the fact that men want to marry women who are fertile. So ideally, when you ask a man who's marriageable at the age where he's ready to get married, he's not going to sit there and say, all right, where are all the 35-year-olds at? Where are all the 40-year-olds at? Doesn't mean these women don't get married, but how do you lessen the chances that you be taken seriously? Well, you do this. And I'm glad Michelle Obama is being honest here, though I don't think really completely honest. As we go on, you're going to see what I mean. But those men aren't looking for you. They're not checking for you. Doesn't matter how much you earn. They don't care. They're taking other things into consideration. And part of that is fertility.
And so you're carrying around that burden. And that can become the first pressure point in a marriage, because emotionally, you've got a woman that is carrying all of this, feeling like a failure, feeling not having anyone to talk about, having her hormones go up and down, literally, right? Probably dealing with depression and maybe some postpartum, still working, still slaying dragons, still on the path, but she's carrying it all on her own. And then if you do IVF, the bulk of the work, the shots, we are the petri dish in the IVF process. You show up, you come in a cup, and ooh, yay, good for you, right? And you're a little mad about that too, because women have to get shots every week. And you have to go back and forth in between having your job, your high-powered job, and keeping it all together. You're at the doctor's office every month trying to count your eggs and hoping that you're producing eggs. And then you have to go through the procedure. And then you have to be pregnant for 9 months as your partner is going to the gym and keeping his figure and, all of that.
If all this works out, because sometimes it doesn't.
So it's a long way of saying there are just many natural reasons why marriage, infertility, trying to have kids makes things difficult. It's like I try to tell couples, of course it's hard. Just listen to what I said, right? Like it's probably, if you're having some issues in your marriage, it's not you, it's the process of marriage. It's just all hard, because guess what happens when it all works out right? You know what you end up with? Babies.
Right.
Little people with their own sense of everything. They mess you up. You love them dearly, but they're a hassle. And they're demanding, and they have their own whims, and now they're in your world, in your partnership. They are they are factored into everything. So even when everything works out and you have the 3.2 kids and you got everything right, it's still going to be hard.
Next, she's going to talk about people giving up on marriage too early. But I think that's a good point. The idea that marriage is hard and that's just what it is. And I think people look at marriage the wrong way. It's like going to the gym and deciding like, okay, it's really important for me that I'm consistent and work out. You kind of accept that to you, the end result of you being really committed and working out is worth the sacrifice and the challenges that you're going to go through. And you accept that it's going to be hard. When you show up to that workout, it's going to be hard. But in the end, there's no greater thing than seeing yourself get in shape. If you've ever experienced that, going from not being in shape and in shape, you're proud of yourself. I think marriage is sort of the same way, but people don't look at it that way. People typically look at marriage like, this is going to make my life easier. And in specific, a lot of women look at marriage like, this is going to make my life easier. Why do I say men don't typically look at it that way? Because there's a certain burden of performance. Like you guys see it all the time with women having all these requirements for men even before they get married, just meeting a man for the first time. And I've asked the audience many times, like, name me something that a woman who is not your girlfriend and you show up on a date is expected to do for you. Forget that, just in society in general, right? So early on, men understand that they have all these expectations, and within a marriage, they have the larger burden of performance to provide. I do think there is this hive mindset right now with a lot of modern women who look at marriage like, I'm supposed to find a man whose number one goal is just simply to make my life better and easier. But they don't understand that better and easier comes as a result of learning to be compatible and growing with another person, being on the same page, checking in on each other. And I've seen that in the short time I've been married myself, and also seen that in my parents' marriage, who I love very close to. They've been married for 30 plus years.
Because now you're developing a life, right? So I talk about these things because I think that people give up too quickly on marriage, right? Because there is so much friction built into the equation. And if you're not getting help, talking about it, going to therapy, just understanding how things are changing and how do you continuously renegotiate your relationship with your partner, I just see people quitting because they look at me and Barack and go, hashtag couple goals, and I'm like, it's hard. It's hard for us too, but I wouldn't trade it. He is, as the young people say, he is my person.
Was there ever a moment where you thought,
there are the moments where I'm like, right? But was it real? No. There was never really a full moment. There were moments when I was resentful. There were moments when I was mad. There were moments when I didn't feel like I got enough attention. But it's like, don't you feel that in your relationship right now?
Yeah.
So it's just me understanding, I was mad, but I forgot even why I was mad, right? That's so it's like, was I really that mad? Oh, did I say that? I'm sorry. I didn't really mean that. So no, in the end, no, we're, and the beauty of my husband and our partnership is that neither one of us was ever really ever going to quit at it, because that's not who we are. And I know that about him. He knows that about me.
Listen to what she just said right there. She says, here are all these people who idolize their marriage, but they don't understand that it takes work, and they quit their relationships too early and think that they are going through some blissful experience within their marriage. My problem with that is she's not being completely straight up with who she's talking about. Who's quitting marriage at high rates? Well, we know that modern women are. Drink the coffee.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
I know. To not be straight up about what and who she's speaking to directly, to me, I think gives the chicks who need to hear this an out, because they do think that there's a mythical man out there who they will never have issues with. And it's worse with the women who look up to Michelle Obama because they're largely Black women. right? We know in the Black community, Black women initiate a divorce at higher rates. I think it's like 80%. Really, really think about that. And I know people are going to do the mental gymnastics of, oh, people quit just because they don't file the divorce papers. It doesn't mean that they haven't quit on the marriage. I mean, technically speaking, it's not over legally until those papers are filed any and which way you slice it. I mean, we could all go back. Like, when did the person truly quit? Who really quit? Was it when the woman first denied the man sex? Like, how far back are we willing to go here? I do think there were some really honest things that were said overall in regards to marriage and how much of a challenge people should prepare to go through and to have the right mindset and to not prioritize career, but to not mention and say who's prioritizing career before they get married, because men aren't a part of that conversation. All right, you need to say, hey, I think if you are a woman who values marriage today, which it's most women who are in the dating market, then you want to make sure that you get married younger, right? Find out what these men want, that you're not out here initiating divorce at such a high rate. Guys, of course, I'm curious to know, what did you think of this whole conversation? Comment down below. And lastly, if you're currently engaged or soon to be married and you need a prenuptial agreement but don't know where to start, head over to fathershaverights.com. We help educate men on taking the first steps to getting their prenup before they hire their attorney. Our guide has helped hundreds of men know how to approach the entire process stress-free and saved them a lot of expensive mistakes. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.